So thanks for coming along this morning. I appreciate you guys giving up a Saturday morning to be here and do some training on Opus. We've got a few things we're going to look at today. What we really want to do today, what I really want to do today is focus on the repertory and some of the tools with the repertory part of the program. So there's going to be obviously lots and lots of sections of the program we won't look at today because we're just focusing in detail on one little section, but it probably is the most important section for us and the main reason that many of us are using homeopathy software so that we can have really easy and rapid access to the information that's in our repertories. So we're going to look at a few different things in that area today. Just to begin with, though, a very quick general tour for folks who haven't joined us before. What you're seeing on your screen at the moment is the opening window of what you see when you first launch RadarOpus. Down the left-hand side here, you can see we've got a table of contents. This is the place where we can choose the books or the documents that we want to work with at the moment. And on the right-hand side is the viewing window where we're actually going to see those documents. When you first open the program, you're going to see this welcome screen here, which has got some information about the program, details on the current version and the features that have been released into it. And also in the top corner here, you've got this little quick start video, which is a really great 15-minute or so tour of the program showing you, how things work, where things are laid out. So if you want a quick refresher on the layout of the program, you can just watch this quick start video. That one's actually installed on your computer, so you don't need to be online to access that. Even if you're not on the internet, you can play that video. And then across the top here, we have all our taskbar, our toolbar with all the buttons and icons and ways to access the different features. So to begin with, let's look at the table of contents, and we're going to focus on the repertory section. There's actually essentially 5 tables of contents in RadarOpus. Repertories, which is where we are at the moment, which we can access by clicking this Repertories button in the top left-hand corner. There's our Materia Medicas, which we again access by clicking the Mat Med button here. And this brings us below hand the table of contents with all our Materia Medicas, obviously also our provings, our journals, published cases, therapeutic guides, the whole range of homeopathic books of type information. We also have a patients table of contents where we can access our patient information. We have a remedies table of contents where we can go straight to a particular medicine. Or we have our families table of contents where we can go directly to a family grouping. So today we're going to focus on just the repertories table of contents, so we're not going to look further at the other sections. We're just going to focus on this one, but lots of the things I'm about to show you are applicable for all 5 of those table of contents because they're all laid out the exact same way and work essentially the same way. So once you understand one, and in this case the repertory table of contents that I'll show you today, you'll also understand how all of them work. So looking at the table of contents here, obviously we've got our list of repertories down the bottom and a few options up the top here that we can use to adjust what we see and how we access the information. There's actually 3 types of documents here. You can see on mine at the moment, at the top here I've got listed repertories and I've got a list of all my repertories. I've got English and German visible here. I'm just going to click this little arrow just to the left of where it says repertories and fold that section up, close it down so you can see the other sections. So there's also 2 other sections here. There's the concepts section. So concepts is actually a document that's built to go along with synthesis, which is people have applied their clinical experience and shown us all the themes and disease groupings and related information and basically their clinical experience using the repertory to help you find better, more useful and more applicable rubrics for a case that you're working on. I'm going to close that one down, just minimize it just by clicking that little arrow. And in our 3rd section here is the family of remedies, all the remedy relationships from talking about kingdom information or miasmatic relationships, remedy relationships, source material, a whole range of different relationships that we can have for our medicines and breaking them into groups are accessed here. So essentially we can access any of these 3 types of information, the repertories themselves, concepts and themes, or the family's information as if we're dealing with a repertory. So let's just open concepts back up by clicking the arrow. And I'll open repertories back up by clicking that arrow. So you can see down here I've got my whole list, but if you want to focus on a particular section, you can look at the section that you want to deal with. The other way to find a particular book that you want to deal with is just by typing its name. So across the top here you can see it says look for a repertory. Say I want to look for something by Boriki's repertory. I could just start typing in Boriki, B-O-E. And as you can see, the more that I type in here, the more options disappear. So under BOE, I can see I've got Boddinghausen, Boriki, Boddinghausen. I'm looking for Boriki in this instance. So to open that repertory, I'm just going to click on the title just here. So here it is, opened up on the right hand side of my program in the viewing window. To bring all my repertories back again, I could either use my mouse or my keyboard to delete where I've typed BOE, or I'll just click the reload button and bring the full list of documents back up again. So opening a repertory is really as simple as that, just going through the table of contents either by scrolling or clicking or typing to find what you want and clicking the document that you want to open. You can of course open as many documents as you want. You can see here at the moment I've opened Boriki already, and perhaps I want to open Murphy also. I'll just click on the title for Murphy. And now you see here in my viewing window, here we are in Murphy's repertory. You can see in the tab at the top corner, Murphy's repertory version 3. I'm going to open up Synthesis now. So just looking at the top here where it says look for a repertory, I'm going to type in Synthesis, S-Y-N, here we go, Synthesis Treasure Edition 2009, I'll click it, and then here we are in Synthesis repertory. To bring all the other documents back again, I'll just click that reload button and bring the full list back up. So what you might notice, we have opened 3 documents so far. I've opened Boriki's repertory, Murphy's repertory, and also Synthesis. But you're just seeing one tab up here, Synthesis Treasure Edition, also our welcome screen, which you saw earlier. So to access those other repertories which are also open, if you just look in this tab, in the right-hand corner, there's a little drop-down arrow. If you click on that drop-down arrow, it brings up a list for you of the other repertories you've got open, so you can move back and forth between them just by clicking on that drop-down arrow. So to go back to Murphy, for example, I'll just click on the name Murphy, and here we are back in Murphy's repertory. Click the drop-down again. I want to go back to Boriki, I'll click it. Click the drop-down again, I'll go back to Synthesis, and I'll click it. There's 2 ways to display this. One is this drop-down list, which is what you're seeing on my screen at the moment. The other option we can choose is display as a preview, in which case if I do the drop-down, I actually see a preview of what the document looks like. So I'm going to go back to display as a list again just by clicking that drop-down arrow, bringing up my preview window and clicking on the text where it says display as a list. So if I wanted to close a repertory, that's very easy. I just click the cross in the top corner of it. So you can see here I'm in my Murphy version 3. If I click the cross up here, it's closed that document down for me. Or I could click on my drop-down and click close all windows in this category. That will close all the repertories, shut them down, take me back to my welcome screen. So I'm actually going to close this welcome screen down now. We're not going to need it again today. And I'll go back, I'll open Synthesis up because we'll start to work with Synthesis to begin with. So I'm just going to type in Syn so I can see the one that I want, and I'll click it with my left mouse button and open the repertory up. So that's the idea with moving around the table of contents. There are quite a few options and ways that you can personalize this table of contents so you can access things the way that you want to access them. And this works the exact same for every window in the program. You're going to see in each window this small icon here with the 2 little arrows pointing towards the ground. This is the filter options. This is the way we can edit the settings and customize the way this window appears. So if I click this button here, you can see it opens up this section at the top with all the list of settings for this particular area, the table of contents, especially the repertory part, and I can customize what I see. So I may want to go to the display tab, for example, and I can choose from a range of options here. Display the document abbreviation. Show me the abbreviation and the name for the document. Abbreviation is what's used in the repertory for our author notes, so you can see who's made a particular addition to that or said that that remedy belongs in that particular rubric. I can choose to display the language flag or not. You can see below here I've got 2 language flags, English and German, because they're the languages that I'm showing up. Displaying the document icon is this little red book symbol here. Display access to documents is not relevant for you at the moment. There is a feature in RadarOpus where you can choose to see portions of documents that you don't have access to, documents that you haven't purchased. With your program at the moment, of course, you've got access to every document that's available, so you're seeing everything right now. You could also choose, if you have a smaller package and later on, if you don't have all those books, you could choose to display parts of them, so you can still search them and see what books have got information in them. You just don't have access to the full document. Group documents by type. So I showed you before there were 3 types of documents we had here. We had repertories, we had concepts, and we had families of remedies. So if I tick group documents by type, it groups them together in these clusters. If I untick that, it will just give me a straight alphabetical listing of all the different types of those documents. I can show my chapters in a grid or a list. choose to display those documents I don't have access to or not. Again, that's not relevant at the moment because you have access to everything right now. I can sort the list in the table of contents by the author's name or at the end of the table of contents. And I can excuse me, choose to put my authors, display them or not display them, put them at the start, put them at the end of the document title. So this is just customizing the way this window looks and laying it out the way that I want it to appear. You can also choose which languages you want to see just by ticking or unticking the boxes. Your program will have access to all the languages available at the moment. So in the repertory section there's English and German. In the Materia Medica section there's many more languages than that have been released. So you can choose which ones you want to see and just untick the boxes for the ones that you want to hide. The final tab here is sorting, and sorting is about changing the order that things appear in the table of contents. So this gives you some options where you can lay out how you want things to appear. I've got the default setting, which is first sort the list by title. So it's an alphabetical listing by title, listed A to Z. I could change it for Z to A if I want, or I could change it so it's sorted by language, or sorted by the author's name, or sorted by the type of document. Is it a repertory first, or is it a concept, or is it a family grouping, etc. And then you can go down these multiple layers here and repeat the process again to sub-sort and sort down the many levels below that. So you can flick through that on your own program, have a play and customize it to the way that you'd like things to appear. I quite like the default version. I find that really useful for me, so I've left it with all the default settings, which is what you're seeing here at the moment. If we look over on the right hand side here, we've got Synthesis Repertory open. So let's have a look at some of the features in the repertory. Of course, exactly the same process as you can customize this repertory by going to this Filters tab in the top corner here, and I click it, and this brings up a list of options for the ways I want to display my repertory. So I can choose, for example, remedies and authors. Do I want to show the remedies, or do I want to show the authors? At the moment you can see I've ticked show the remedies, so I can see all the remedies next to my rubrics. Some people like to untick that, hide all those medicines so that they can choose their rubrics without being biased by having seen which medicines are in them. So you can choose to do that if you want to. I could tick show the authors. If I tick that now, you can see all my author abbreviations appear, which tell me who was the person who made this or said this medicine should be added to this rubric. I can choose to show the number of remedies. Just here you can see, for example, this Mind Daytime rubric has got 9 in it. It's choosing if I see the 9 or not. Show the tooltips on remedies and authors. So something you may have noticed that's different on mine. This is actually different than the default setting because I find this quite useful. Is you can tick this box to have tooltips appear when you rest your mouse over either a medicine name or an author name. So for example, if I go here to arsenicum and rest my mouse, up comes a tooltip with a picture of arsenicum and shows me what that substance is. I can also show the degrees, 1, 2, 3 or 4, so my remedy degrees. Okay, sort the remedies by. We can sort them by their ascending abbreviation, descending abbreviation, ascending degree or descending degree. Basically, do I want to see my medicines in alphabetical order, or do I want to see them listed by their degrees, first grade first, second grade first, third grade, then fourth grade. But you can just tick through and customize that to the way you want it to appear. We can choose in the repertory to show a variety of tags, and I'm going to show you all the tags at the moment. There's a whole range of options in here, the bits and pieces and extra bits of information that you may want to see. I can choose, show me bookmarks, show me the path, show me the complete route. So I'm just going to close these settings down again and go back to the repertory. And you can see there's also some shortcut buttons at the top here. Two I want to show you right now is one that's got the remedies and the one that's got the little person face here. So these are the same options for show the medicine, show the author. So for example, if I click on the author, it hides all those author notes from me. If I click on the remedies, it hides all the remedies from my repertory. I can click the remedies again, bring it back up, and click the author again, and bring them back up. Okay, I'll leave that one there. We've also got an option here for tags. So tags is all the extra bits of information which is included on rubrics. I've got mine all hidden at the moment, but if I click it, see a whole range of icons have just appeared on my screen. I'll just turn it off again so you can see again. So you can see they've disappeared. In daytime 9, click it again, this little clock icon appears. So these tags are bits of information. It's actually bits of information that the program's got, where the rubrics or pieces of the rubric are tagged, so the program knows what type of information this is or what it may apply to. So for example, you can see here this rubric, Mind Daytime, it's got a little clock symbol next to it, which is telling me this is a rubric which relates to time. This has got time information in it. If I go down to here, for example, Evening, it's a little clock with saying it's a time rubric, But in my sub-rubric, I've got amelioration with this little forward and back arrow. It's a modality. So I'm saying I'm in a time rubric, but its sub-rubric here is about being a modality. There's a whole range of stuff in here that you can choose whether you want to see it in your repertory or not. And the way that you choose it is by clicking this little drop-down arrow, selecting which tags to show or hide. And we've got a whole range of things in here you can choose. Do you want to see your bookmarks? Do you want to see pictures, sounds, videos? Do you want to see these listings with the type of rubric when it's a side, a time, a modality, extension? Do you want to see the user notes, little bits of extra bits of information attached with definitions of what a rubric means, or the original page number that appeared in the original document? We can see miasmatic groupings where different authors have assigned a miasm to a rubric, or so this rubric belongs to a particular miasm. You can make your own personal miasmatic additions here if you want to, or take as additions Sankaran's miasms. There's also a range of veterinary additions here if you're working with the veterinary information or veterinary version of synthesis. You can choose to see or not if these are veterinary additions and what type of veterinary additions they are. And of course the hyperlinks is about links to other documents or links around the repertory, and we'll come back and look at some of those in a moment. I'm just going to close this down for now. Okay. So one of the features here, sorry, I should say those features are the same in all the different repertories. Those buttons I've shown you so far are the same across all of them. So irrespective of which repertory you're working with, you can apply those bits of information. This thing I'm about to show you next is unique to synthesis. It's a feature that synthesis is the only repertory that has offered, where we've got this idea of repertory views, and you can see mine at the moment is set to full repertory. So repertory views was an idea that Frederick Schroyen's introduced with Synthesis 8 quite a few years back now, where there was a lot of debate in the homeopathic community about what type of information people wanted available in their repertory. Some people wanted the newest and the most revolutionary and the most innovative information. Other people wanted the most classical information, the most conservative information, or the most confirmed information. So this is the way that this has been addressed in synthesis in the past, and including now into RadarOpus, is that you can choose the bits and pieces of information or the types of information that you want to see. So for example here under full repertory, if I use the full repertory option, you see the whole range of information that's available. Under full repertory, I could choose full remedy with no remedies copied. One of the things that changed in version 9 of synthesis is that all the Boger-Bonninghausen information was introduced, so you can actually work with the same repertory in a Boger-Bonninghausen style method or in a Kentian style method. One of the advantages with the repertory views is you can then choose to have the program artificially generalize even more modern editions. So in addition to seeing just the general type rubrics that Boger and Bonninghausen wrote for us, you can also see in a general type rubric modern information that's come from even a Kentian author who's never generalized the information, because the computer generalizes it. So it looks at, this is in a sub-rubric, let's copy it into the main super rubric because it applies in that more generalized main super rubric as well. The Millennium View removes some of the more speculative or the more recent additions. It removes things that have come from less classical oriented provings, or removes information that's come from working with kingdoms, or it's been derived from working with family groupings. Quantum View is more conservative again. It has to have multiple confirmations or have a classical source, clinical confirmation. And then there's a range of options back here going through the history of homeopathy, up to modern times, 1987, the classic authors through to 1916, the era of Kent. You could choose just to see the Boger-Bonninghausen information, just the information of the early pioneers, just Kent's repertory. This is revised because it gives us also the information or the corrections that have been made since then. We know there's several mistakes that Kent made which have been corrected in the more recent versions of the database. We can see Kent plus the provings, or Kent plus the clinical verification. We could see the Viltukas view, which is a view that George Viltukas has written, where he's customized the repertory based on his understanding of what's most characteristic, what's most important, and what's reliable. We've got a similar view from Brunson. I could choose to see just the most recent provings, only the plants, only the minerals, only the animals. And it's just a matter of clicking, choosing what I want. So for example, if I go here to Quantum View, and I click it, actually I might move a little bit further down the repertory so I can show you rubrics that are going to change, because those rubrics are very classic type rubrics. Let's go to Fear of the Dark. Okay, so I can see Mind, Fear of the Dark, under the Quantum View has 68 medicines. So looking at a conservative type setting like the Quantum View, where we want classical sources and clinical verification, we've got 68 medicines. If we go up to the full repertory, with the whole range of information, family-derived information, recent provings, speculative provings, meditation provings, a whole range of ways of gathering information, we can see that goes up to 104 medicines, so there's a lot more medicines in that rubric. So you can customize that to what you want to see. The next two buttons along also apply to this same feature. I'm going to show you that now. I'm going to go back to Quantum View and just click it again to limit the repertory back to the information that's classical information that's in the Quantum View. So these two filter buttons here relate to the views as well, and they're ways of showing us or not showing us the extra information. So with this first one here with a little minus red box sign, I can choose display only the rubrics containing remedies from the view. So if my rubric becomes empty, essentially there's no remedies left in that rubric because under the view that I've chosen that rubric is empty. Clicking this button will hide all those rubrics so they no longer appear in your program. You don't have to look at them or deal with those anymore if they don't have information in them that you want to work with. The next one along also displays the remedies excluded from the repertory view. If I click on that one now, you can see I've got my 68 medicines in the sphere of the dark, but also below hand I've got this little plus 36. So this is showing me these are the extra 36 medicines in this rubric that are hidden in my current view. So I could rest my mouse on it with my tooltip to see a list of those medicines, or if I click it, it will open them up at the bottom of that rubric. So perhaps I choose I want to work with the Quantum View most of the time, but I want a quick way to access those medicines that were excluded in case they're useful for me in the case. So that's a way I might choose to do it by clicking on this button at the top here. So let's change back to the full repertory. We also have a feature in synthesis in Opus, not just synthesis I should say, so this is true in all the documents in Opus, irrespective if they're repertories or mature medicas or provings or anything, where you can change the language of that document. So depending on your package, you can go and look at other official translations that are available, or you can even artificially translate a document. So if it's not available in your language, you can do an artificial translation and translate it into your language, or a mechanical computerized translation. So do that by clicking on the Change Languages document, and I can say show this document in. So for example, at the moment in synthesis I'm seeing it in English obviously. My other available language is German, so if I click on German, so here we go now, we're looking at a German language version of the repertory. I won't try to pronounce that because I don't want to offend any German people listening today, but you can see the language has been changed now. I'm in the same document, I'm still in synthesis, but I'm in the German language version of it. Do it again, I just click it again, so click on this little globe, show this document in, and I'm going to go back to English. I could also choose to see multiple languages if I want, so additional languages, so show it to me also in German. So we can see the English language version, followed by the German language version, and here's the one rubric, daytime or tagsüber. Here's my one rubric, morning or morgens, and the medicines in it. So if you're working with multiple languages, that's why you can access it. I'll turn that additional language off just by going back to the globe, additional languages, and clicking on where it said German. Another option available is we can translate documents, so either into our language or into a different language. So in this case, obviously, synthesis is already in English, so I'm going to translate it into a different language. So I'll go to google.com, and I'm going to use Google's Translate feature, and I can translate this document into a different language. So for example, perhaps I want to see a Korean version of this document, so I'm going to click Korean, and this will take a minute or so, but the program's going to go through and using the translation features of the internet. And there we go, translate the document, and here's a Korean language version of the document, even though no Korean language version of synthesis exists yet. So this is a computerized translation, but can be really useful when you're dealing with people working in other languages, or perhaps when there's a really useful document proving that's not been translated into English or something like that, and you want to access it. You can, with any document, use this feature to translate the language. So I'm just going to turn that back off by clicking on it again. Okay. So the other thing I should show you is that in each window, in the corner of each window, you've got this small icon here, which looks like a little blue book with a question mark on it. This is our help section. You can see you've got one in the table of contents as well. Clicking on it opens up the help section of the program, and it opens up the help section specific to the window you're in at the moment. So you can see I was in the repertory and I clicked that help button. So this brought up for me a video with training on how this section of the program works, and also the text and image version where I can go through and it will give me an explanation of how this part of the program operates. This is the same in each window in the program. Wherever you are, you can click on that little button and bring up the help section. It's a really useful feature because the help obviously is built into the program. You've got your videos available there anytime you want to view them, but also you can have the help section open and work on the program at the same time because it just slides to the side like this. If I close it down, for example, I'll show the same in the table of contents, and I click it. So here's my help section for the table of contents. I can watch my training video, or it goes through, gives me an explanation of how this section works, and I can work in the program just the same as I always do at the same time this is open. We'll close that one down again. So that's some of the features in the repertory. I'm going to show you now how to navigate around the repertory, then we'll look at some of the ways that you can edit and adjust with that. So there's a couple of ways that you can access the menus to work around the repertory. One of the first ways using your mouse, you can see at the top here we've got this search icon. I'm going to click the drop down here, and my first option is find a rubric. So if I'm searching for a rubric, I want to just work my way down through the levels. If I click it, this brings up for me a list of all the chapters in my current document. So I can see here I can just choose the chapter I want. For example, I'll click on Generals, and I click it, and this takes me into the Generals and brings up a list for me all the sections of the Generals chapter. You see, side, daytime, morning, forenoon, noon, afternoon, etc., etc. So if I want to go to the food section of the repertory, I can just scroll down the list here and find where it says food, or using my keyboard I can just start typing F-O-O, and you can see this will take me to the F-O-O parts. I've got F-O-O up the top here. I can click on food and drinks, and this brings me up again, shows me a list of all the sections inside food and drinks. We can see in the header, for example, Generals, food and drinks, and looking down the list here, here's all the sections. So if I want to go to, say, alcohol, I can start typing A-L. Here's the alcoholic drinks part. I'll click it or push enter on my keyboard. Here's my subsections. So if I go to, say, desire, again I could just click it. I could scroll or type on my keyboard, and I'll just keep going down until I find the rubric I want. So if we go, okay, Generals, food and drinks, alcoholic drinks, desire, that's the one I want. I'm going to push the go to button in the bottom corner with my mouse, and that's going to take me to the repertory, and here we are, Generals, food and drinks, alcoholic drinks, desire, and I can drag and drop that rubric into my clipboard. If you're a keyboard person, the other way that you could bring this window up is by pushing the F2 button on your keyboard. This brings up the chapter window in exactly the same way. I'll close that down again now. Or the other thing you could do is just start typing directly the chapter you want to go to. So for example, if I want to go to the Mind chapter, I don't need to click anything else first. I'm just going to go directly to my keyboard and push the letter M. And you can see up pops that window with all the chapters, Mind, Mouth, Male, Male and Female, all the chapters that begin with the letter M. So I could type, MI if I want just the Mind, or I can just push letter M, use my mouse to click or the Enter button on my keyboard, and select it. It shows me the whole list of sections there. So if I go, say, to Fear, I'm going to type in Fear, F-E-A-R on my keyboard, click Enter, bring up the list of all the sections inside Fear. I'll go to Dog, D-O-G, Enter. So you can see in the header now, I'm here at Mind, Fear, Dogs of, same as we looked at similar before. Subrubrics if I want, I'm going to click the Go To button. So now here I am in my repertory, Mind, Fear, Dogs of, and I'll drag and drop that into my clipboard. Exactly the same as before, that search window can be customized in a whole variety of ways. So I'm going to bring it back up again, find a rubric, and you see in the top corner I've got my same filter or my settings button. I'm going to click that, and there's a few options here that we can choose. We could say show the tags, all those tags, abbreviations. You can see in the background my modalities tag, my veterinary tag, etc. If you tick this box, they'll also appear in the navigation window. That can be quite useful. If I close this, tick that box and close it down, and I'm going to go into Mind. Okay. You can see it brings up all these tags for me, and I can see very quickly here, here's all my time modalities at the start. Daytime, morning, forenoon, noon, afternoon, evening, night, all the time sections. Then I've got here, here's a modality, here's a modality, here's a modality, here's my miasmatic groupings, here's the whole range of tags. And then you can, of course, when you customize the tags, when you choose which ones appear in the repertory, the same one will appear in the window here, so you could choose to display the ones that you want. So this may be useful for you to work out which rubric you're looking at, which piece of information you're looking at. I'm going to turn that one off for now. Show the number of remedies. Again here, just you're seeing this little numerical score after the rubric showing you how many medicines are in that rubric. I can choose to sort the chapters alphabetically if I want, or leave them in their Kantian structure if I go back up, just so I can show you. So I've got my my Kantian order here: mind, vertigo, head, eye, vision, ear, etc. I'm going to click my drop down, so I could choose to sort the chapters alphabetically, in which case it becomes abdomen, back, bladder, chest, chill, clinical, etc. I'll untick that. I'm going to go into mind. I could choose to sort the rubrics alphabetically. So what you're seeing at the moment, you may notice this list here is not alphabetical. You can see it starts with the D to daytime, M for morning, F for forenoon, N for noon, afternoon, evening, night, and then we've got this list kind of down here. I'll just minimize the program for a moment. So this is the structure of the synthesis repertory, and different repertories are going to have different structures, so it depends which document you're using. But the way things are organized in synthesis is a version that's kind of based on Kant's repertory, Kantian structure, but with some modifications that were made in version 9. You might remember I said earlier that in version 9 of the repertory, all the Boger-Bonninghausen information was incorporated, which meant the structure was modified a little bit so that you could access Boger-Bonninghausen generalities type information or the Kantian information all from within the one structure. So the structure in synthesis from version 9, which is what the 2009 is based on, is we start with information about the sides of the body, so is it a left or a right-sided symptom. Then we move on to information about the times of day, and then we look at the modalities, then the extensions, when a symptom travels outside of the current chapter into a different chapter, for example, head pain extending to the back, the locations, which part, for example, in the head chapter we might see there's an occiput section, a forehead section, a vertex section, etc. And then actually the descriptions of the symptoms themselves. So if we go back to synthesis, we can see the current organisation, the default organisation is that Kantian structure. So we're seeing times at the top, and then we start to see the other information after that. You can choose to sort the rubrics alphabetically. So in this case we're sorting in the index, so we're not sorting in the repertory itself. We could choose to do this in the repertory itself if we want to as well, but it can be quite useful to sort the index here alphabetically, because then the repertory still appears in that classic Kantian order with all the related information side by side, which is very useful for us to look at and compare. But then in the index here we can choose to sort it alphabetically, which makes it easier to scroll through and see the words that we're looking for, the particular the term that we're looking for. So you can choose to sort it that way if you want to. You may choose to search anywhere in the text. So I'm going to choose this one. I'll close it down and I'll show you what this means. So if I bring up this window, I'll start at the beginning. Rubric. I'll type in F-E female. Enter. F-E. So you can see even though I've typed F again, at the top here, I'm getting come up the C section, complaints, because it's got FE for female in the rubric. So if I choose this option, search anywhere in the text, rather than searching just for the first level, it's going to search anywhere at all. That could be quite useful if you're not quite sure where to find things in the repertory, or if you want to see a range of options come up where the same word appears in different sections. So using my keyboard, I'm just going to start again typing, say, G. Okay. So even though I've typed the letter G, I've got a whole range of chapters come up that don't start with the letter G because it's searching anywhere at all. I'll type a bit more, G, E, N, okay, so I can see all the things that have got G, E, N in them. Click on Generals. I start typing in B, A, C, so it's showing me anything that's got that fragment anywhere in the word. So it's a less specific, it's a looser search, but it could be quite useful if you're looking for broader information. So I'm going to turn that one off again now. We've got an option here, stay in the same chapter when typing in the document. So if I just show you this again before we change that. So I showed you earlier, if you're in the repertory and you start typing, it's going to start looking for the chapter that you start typing. So for example, if I push the letter M, up comes my chapters, and I could choose from the chapters that start with the letter M. Click Enter and go down the lists here. If I go into my settings and choose stay in the same chapter when typing in the document, goes that down. So in this case, if I start pushing the letter M, you can see rather than looking for the Mind chapter, it stays inside the Mind chapter and starts looking for all the rubrics that start with the letter M. So I could say M, A, D, for example, and choose Madness. So I'll just show you that setting again. So I'm in the Mind chapter. If I start typing, D, O, G will go to Dogmatic. So I can click that, or I can choose just to untick this, I'll close that down, in which case if I start typing DOG, obviously it won't go anywhere because we've got no chapter that starts with the word DOG. Word wrap, we'll just choose if it spaces the words out across. It's a visual thing in that navigation window, or I could choose to highlight the hits, in which is what you're seeing at the moment. For example, this Dreams has got this highlighted box around it. So I'll close this one down again. Okay, so that's some of the settings you can do to customize the way that you can move around the Repertory window. What I might show you now is a little bit of stuff from within the Repertory window itself, because one of the things that you can use the Repertory for is accessing other information apart from just the Repertory itself. We can see here, for example, in this rubric, daytime, I can see here go sulfur. If I can rest my mouse on it, up comes my little tooltip with the pictures of sulfur. If I clicked on that, it's just going to bring up the information about sulfur for me. So this is actually the sulfur, the remedy information window. So I can go straight to keynotes about sulfur. I can see the multimedia files, see pictures of sulfur. I can see the family information, see all the family groupings that sulfur belongs to. I've got a passport section here. This is a new section that's coming out very shortly with information from Franz Vermeulen on the source material of the remedies. So this brings up information from Franz talking about the source of that material. So anywhere you see a medicine name, including from the Repertory itself, you can go directly into this section. Then one of the things I could do from here in the top corner is search for this remedy. So search for it in, and I can choose the type of document I want to search for it for, all documents or repertories or mature medicas. If I choose all open repertories, because I've only got my one repertory open, I've got my synthesis, I'll click here. So this goes through and does a search for me and brings up a list. These are all the rubrics in synthesis that sulfur belongs to. So daytime, mind, morning, forenoon, etc. I can scroll through the whole list of options here. So I'll show you that again. I'm going to close these down. Cross it, cross that one. So from the Repertory, I just clicked on sulfur, and this brings up my remedy information window. And then at the top here, I said search for this remedy in all open repertories. And here's a list of all the rubrics that sulfur appears in the current Repertory. So we'll close that one down again. I'm going to get back to synthesis. So I'll show you a different medicine now. If we try and say lycopodium, I'll click on lycopodium. So this brings up the remedy information section for lycopodium. We can see this is Fran's information from the passport on lycopodium, the families that lycopodium belongs to, multimedia images of lycopodium, the keynotes of lycopodium, and again, search for this repertory in, search for this remedy in all the open repertories. So here's a list of all the rubrics that lycopodium belongs to. If I wanted to use one of these, I could take it directly from this window, click it to go to it, drag and drop it to my clipboard, or I could drag it from here directly, just pick it and drop it. Okay, close that one down. And I'll close lycopodium down, just go back to the Repertory. Okay, great. So the other things that you can actually click on in the Repertory themselves, obviously we've got things like our cross-references here. So at this rubric, mind, abusive, children, parents, children insulting, we can see I've got my list of medicines for children who insult their parents. I've also got some cross-references, so I could also look at abusive towards their family, towards their husband, towards the mother, etc. So I could click on this, and it will take me to the Repertory where that rubric is. So you can see mind, abusive, family towards one, Kali datum. I could click on abusive to one's husband, it's cross-reference, go back to it. So it's a way that you can move around very quickly and see rubrics that are related to each other. What we could also do is if maybe we want to take several of these rubrics. We're looking at the moment at the rubric for mind, abusive husband. And here's a list of medicines, but we've also got cross-references here for children who abuse their parents, abusive towards their family, abusive towards your mother. Perhaps if all of these apply for your client, you may want to pick all of them at the same time. The way you can do that is using your keyboard. If you're on a PC, just push the Control button. If you're on a Mac, click the Command button. Same as you would for any other program. If you want to pick multiple things at once, you hold down the Control or the Command button. And I'm just going to click on these sub-rubrics. And you see a little tick appears next to it. I'll click on this one. A little tick appears next to that. Click on this one. A little tick. So I've clicked on all four of these rubrics here, said I want all four of them. If I drag and drop my rubric to my clipboard, it actually takes all four rubrics directly to my clipboard now, combines them together into one grouped rubric. So I'm getting, I guess, a more thematic listing of all the abusive type medicines rather than the ones that are just only abusive to the husband. I also have got the ones that are abusive to their parents, or abusive toward their family, or abusive towards their mother. If I clicked on this clipboard here, so you can see I've got these little A's, abusive to a husband. Sorry, move that tooltip out of the way. These little A's here saying these rubrics are all grouped together into a group. These are my abusive type medicines. Go back to synthesis again. I'll show you that in a different rubric. So if we looked at, say, mind, evening. I'll bring it up on my screen here. So let's look through. Here we go. Here's one, anxiety in the evening, twilight in there. It's got cross-references, darkness aggravates, light aggravates. So perhaps I want to pick several of these. I could choose Control, click, or Command, click to choose these cross-references. So I'm also looking at darkness aggravates or light desire for, and then I could choose to take the whole lot by clicking on evening, or I could choose perhaps just one of the sub-rubrics, twilight in there, and I drag and drop it to my clipboard and it will drop the whole lot in for me. Okay. Alright, so that's one of the ways you can work with the cross-references. You can also bring up information about the authors. I showed you earlier, if you click on this author icon, it brings up the authors, people who've said this edition belongs to this particular rubric. Again, the same way that we clicked on the remedy to bring up more information about the remedy, I could click on the author. For example, this one, anxiety in the evening, aconite's been added because Kent said it should be there. If I click on my little Kent, it brings up my information section about Kent. So I've got my summary of information about him, multimedia files of Kent, or I can go directly to Wikipedia and read about the Kent information on Wikipedia. I'm going to close that one down again, go back to the repertory, and I'll turn my family information on, so my author information off,